Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we are test driving the all-new 2023 Honda Accord Sport L Hybrid. And so we're gonna have a good look at it inside and out. We're gonna take it for a drive, and then I'm gonna tell you what I really think. Okay, my friends, what we have here is the all-new 2023 Honda Accord. It's been completely restyled for this year, and this is the Sport L, and it is the hybrid. As tested, we're at $35,000 and some change. You can spend a little bit more if you get the Touring, and you can spend less if you just get the Sport Hybrid. And of course, right now, the way the model lineup is, 50% of all of the Accords they're expecting to sell are now hybrids because of the way they've done the trim lineups. And so I said all new, and it is pretty much all new. It's got a complete reskin inside and out, new interior, new body. It is 2.7 inches longer, but underneath the chassis is essentially the same as before. That is carryover. It's got the same wheelbase. The suspension is essentially the same, give for a few tweaks. Now the powertrain under the hood, new 4th generation hybrid powertrain, and we'll get to that in a little bit more detail in a moment. But looking at styling, decidedly more conservative than before. This fits in with all of the other new Hondas of late, the Civic, the CR-V. The facial features, very familiar there, and a little bit less detail going down the sides. It's a more streamlined, cleaner, crisper look. LED headlights, of course, coming around the corner, 19-inch black alloy wheels because we're on the Sport, 245 section tires, 40 series, and all of the trims that you see going front to back, a lot of gloss black going with that Sport theme. And looking at the back, the rear deck lid's got a deck lid spoiler on it, completely redesigned taillight scheme, a little bit more almost Audi-esque, I'd say, very similar to an S5 or an S7 in silhouette in the overall blocky look. Down at the bottom, a nice gloss black finisher on the lower bumper. And so this really has the look of a fastback, yet it is still a conventional sedan with a regular trunk lid. The interior of the 2023 Honda Accord has been completely redesigned, and it shares a lot in its design DNA with the rest of the latest Honda cars, the Civic, the CR-V, the Pilot, and so on. And that's this horizontal dash with a metal grille, which has a very upscale look. And here in the Accord, on almost all the trims, you get piano black, which looks very cool, but is a little bit difficult to keep clean. It's always looking dusty no matter how often you clean it. But that said, in the Sport L, this is a trim grade that is near the top of the ladder, and it has a lot of feature content. It has power leather seats, and it has, of course, a fully digital dash, a nice 10.2-inch screen in front of me, and it has a lot of customizable content there that you can do. And then the steering wheel has paddle shifters on it, which can adjust the regenerative braking and give you a one-pedal driving style, very similar to a lot of electric cars out there. The switchgear, of course, is of very high quality. We expect that with Honda, and for the most part, the materials are as well. The center stack has a large 12.3-inch digital touchscreen infotainment system. There's a volume knob there, and below these vents, there are 3 dials for the climate control system. And then down in the center console, a little cubby for your phone. This particular trim grade does have a wireless charger down there, and then a conventional shifter behind that. Kind of a nice bonus in a hybrid. I always love those cup holders off to the side. And then here behind the shifter, there are a drive mode selector, the EV button, and a few other controls, the parking brake being one of them. Storage inside the center console, pretty generous. It's about the size of 1.5 square tissue boxes, and inside there is a 12-volt outlet. There are USB ports up here at the front of the center console, both for connecting to the infotainment system as well as charging. These seats are extremely comfortable, and I expect that with Honda. They are a company that's known for making some of the best seats in the business, and they are power both for the driver and the passenger. Support is good. They're very firm seats. They almost feel like full-on sport seats, but they're not overly bolstered so that larger people would feel uncomfortable in them. And finding my perfect driving position, no problem at all. Also in this trim grade, a sunroof, just a conventional sunroof, nothing crazy, and then controls up here for the lights, the sunroof, and various other things. The rear seat of the Accord is plenty roomy, as you can see, and you know, this is one of the larger cars that's available now in the four-door sedan class, but with this vast roof, I am pleased to say that there's still a reasonable good amount of headroom here. I've got about 2, maybe 2.5 inches above my head. These seats set for my height, about 5'8" with my tennis shoes on. Easily 6 inches of leg room in front of me in terms of my knees, and I can really stretch out quite well. The seating position is a little bit on the low side, but again, we expect that in a sedan. The hybrid battery for this car is underneath this seat, so the packaging seems to work pretty well. What I'm not too pleased with back here is the fact that there's a definite difference in the trims on the door panels back here versus the front. They've cheapened them out just a little bit. When you run your hand around, it's just not quite the same as what you get up front, and we saw that in the Honda Civics that I have tested earlier this year. Also, the big thing that's missing back here are AC vents for the rear seat passengers. Oh my God, really? In the Accord? I mean, I expect that down in the lower size classes, especially here in the mid to full size class. That's really missing. It really just is. And there's no charging ports back here also. Kind of a big omission. There is, in the center here, a fold down armrest with cup holders, and these seats do fold down in a 60-40 split so that you can get large things in through the trunk, and even when they're up, that trunk is pretty sizable, I will tell you. Looking around, you can see plenty of space back there, and the opening is pretty good too. Underneath that floor, you will not find a spare tire. They've skipped that, and they've given us a inflator kit, so you know, if you cut a tire open, you're looking for a tow truck. Again, a little bit of an omission in my opinion. So overall, I love the new design of the 2023 Accord interior. They've done a nice job bringing it right in line with the other new Hondas of late, and I like the styling theme. It's a nice design. It's somewhat retro, maybe a little bit Scandinavian possibly, but definitely Honda, and they're taking it across the board. I like what they've done. Some of the things that I'm a little disappointed with in this interior are the fact that the piano black's a little bit tough to keep clean. It's always dusty looking, but more than that, it's the feature content, especially in the back seat. You feel like you've gone to the cheap seats back there with the trim and the fittings. It's not quite like sitting up front, but most important, it's the missing vents. It's the missing charging ports back there. Almost every competitor, even in smaller classes, offers vents back there, and that's a pretty big deal here in Arizona when it gets to be over 100 degrees like today. So this interior gets 4 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is not quite top of the line, even though this trim grade is almost all the way at the top. It has a 12.3-inch touchscreen, which can be divided into 2 different panels and customized. And it does feature Bluetooth connectivity, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and those are both wireless. And it also has AM and FM. You have a power flow that you can look at. The menus themselves are well laid out. The graphics are good, very down to business. I am surprised by a little bit of a lacking in feature content at this price level. We're nearly all the way to the top. I would expect to have the top end audio system. It doesn't have satellite radio at $35,000. Missing in my opinion, and it doesn't have much more than a single view backup camera. Again, getting into this area, we start to see cars offering that 360-degree view, so it's missing a few features. Also, it doesn't have the top end audio system at near the top of the line. Again, I would expect that when we get up into that 35, 36, 37 price range. So well done, easy to use, not as many hard controls as I like, but it's a nice mid-level to lower end audio system for this class. The system gets 4 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, time to take a drive. So the question I always like to ask is, how does it go? Ooh, nice sound. Very nice sound, actually. And 60. Now, you might have noticed that this it sounds like it's shifting gears, which we usually don't get in a hybrid. So it's got a nice sound. It gives you the sensation that you're shifting gears. So my first impression of driving it, it's sporty. And so what is under the hood? What we've got here is the 4th generation of Honda's hybrid system, and it features a 2-liter Atkinson cycle naturally aspirated engine and a new 2-motor CVT hybrid transmission. While it operates very similar to a lot of hybrids out there, it is a little bit different, and it can directly connect to the engine and run in a direct drive mode, or it can be balancing that power between the gasoline engine and an electric motor. All said, it has 204 system horsepower and 247 pound-feet of torque. And so it is one of the more powerful hybrid sedans in the business. And fuel efficiency, well, that's the point here, isn't it? This is rated at 46 city, 41 highway, and 44 mpg combined. Now, honestly, I am shooting video on this car one day after I've gotten it. I really haven't had a chance to get my own mile per gallon numbers yet. Right now I'm showing just under 40, but I've been driving it as you see me. A little bit high performance and really getting a feel for this. All of the anecdotal evidence out there from a lot of other reviewers are that this is getting MPG right in the neighborhood of what's promised. I think what is my biggest takeaway with this powertrain is the fact that it doesn't feel like a hybrid. It has a very strong electric mode, 181 horsepower the actual drive motor has. So when it's operating in EV mode, this actually has a good deal of power, and according to the paperwork, it can sail at pretty high speeds. Now, this also has an adjustable regenerative braking system with paddles here on the steering wheel that allow you to actually have an almost one pedal drive, which is something that most electric cars offer today, but you can actually set the regenerative braking up pretty high so that when you let off the pedal, it almost has a braking effect because it's really leaning on that regenerative braking to slow you down. And that actually helps recharge your battery a little bit quicker. So this new powertrain I find pretty impressive. It's sporty, it's very drivable. It doesn't have that fighting against you sensation like the Toyota Camry hybrid has, and it's actually got a high level of refinement. So kudos goes to Honda. This powertrain gets 5 out of 5 stars. Now it's time to talk about ride, drive, and handling. This has a McPherson strut front suspension and a multi-link rear suspension, virtually identical to the last generation Honda, which is a good thing. The Accord has always been a car that has been one of the best handling in the class because it's got a sporty edge to it, it's got a refinement to it, and this is a car that's right in line with all of the Accords of the past. And with these 19-inch wheels, the low-profile tires, it's got a good level of grip and a good level of sharpness when you throw it into a curve. Yet it retains a level of refinement. The ride is stiffer and a little bit more staccato than it would be if you got one of the other models with a higher sidewall tire, so keep that in mind when you're making your choices. But it's quiet, it's stable, and while I didn't get to do a highway decibel test on this particular car this week, Honda tells me that they have added some additional sound deadening here and there, and I think that's evident. I have noticed a little bit less wind noise and a little bit less road noise, even though this has the wider tires. This chassis, very impressive. It gets 5 out of 5 stars. So it's not hard to see why Honda keeps showing up on Car and Driver's 10 Best. It gets Car of the Year here, there, and just about everywhere. And even on our channel, it gets high marks across the board. And that's because for some reason, Honda just prioritizes making everything right. I hate to put it like that, but I think the big conversation to have here is how does this compare against its nearest rival, which is the Camry hybrid? Well, the Camry's been out for quite a while. Now it's due for a refresh soon, but right now this is a car that's sharper, it's edgier, it has more refinement, it's definitely sportier to drive, and the interior quality is quite a bit higher. And we just test drove the Camry hybrid last year. So immediate comparative thoughts, that's where it's at. Now looking at value and how it compares on all of the various metrics, very good quality inside and out. Efficiency is very competitive. Price at $35,000, near fully loaded. I actually was surprised that it wasn't a little bit more, if I'm honest. So I put value here at 5 out of 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're at 4.5 stars for the review. Exceptional. Definitely worth a look if you want a hybrid sedan. And geez, you know, there's not very many to pick from anymore, and so your shopping should be somewhat easy. So there you go, the Honda Accord Hybrid for 2023. If you like what we do, Click down below and see our social media channels. We do a lot there that we don't do videos on. You can also see our latest video right there. Better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel right there and stay informed of everything that we do. Stay tuned.